long investigation into new import duties for foreigners. These are costing expats moving to Russia literally thousands of euros to bring their own belongings with them. Our findings have made the Customs Service accept the law needs to be changed. Here's Ivor Bennett. He's been leading the investigation for us. Hello to you, Ivor. So, how did your investigation actually reach that point?
Well, it took us a lot of time and effort, but finally, as you say, the Customs Union, the building behind me, has admitted that the changes need to be made to this law simply because it's putting foreigners off coming here and scaring potential investors away, which goes against what the government wants. And so it all started back in July the 1st, when these new charges were introduced, literally out of the blue. There was no warning whatsoever. Expats, foreigners relocating to Russia with all their belongings suddenly found themselves on arrival here having to pay, in some cases, 20,000 euros in import duties for their household goods. Before, this didn't used to happen, but suddenly on July the 1st, it all came out of the blue. Similar story with removal firms. We spoke to them. They had no idea of this whatsoever. They were powerless to do anything about it too and help out those who had been affected. And even some of the customs officials at the customs points were similarly in the dark. We went to one customs depot a couple of weeks after the charges came into force, where some of the shipments, they were all building up because people simply didn't want to pay. They're waiting to see what happened if these charges would suddenly be lifted. And we actually spoke to officials there for around 2 hours, going over the finer details of this law so they'd fully understand what it was about and so they'd feel comfortable before giving us an interview on camera, because they too didn't have any warning of this. They didn't even understand the charges themselves fully because the charges are so complex. The public chamber too, we spoke to them. They were campaigning to try and get this changed because they know it's making life very difficult for foreigners moving here. And finally to the Customs Union themselves, by which point news of our investigation had filtered through, and news that foreigners were obviously very unhappy about this and it was putting people off coming here. And this is the report of that full investigation and how it's affected those who've had to pay up.
Amir's been living in an empty flat since moving here 5 weeks ago, sleeping on the floor. He's showing me how he takes his meals, sitting on a carpet, using a suitcase for a table.
It's kind of interesting to live in a nicer part of town, a nice property, but a bit like war refugees instead of professional immigrants.
Amir's belongings are being held at customs. New import duties means he has to pay thousands of euros to get them back, and was only informed after arriving in Russia. Amir put off payment hoping the law would change, but his bill only increased, at 1,000 euros a week for storage. He can't hold out any longer and must now fork out 20,000 euros.
The price is exorbitantly high. It's very expensive just to get your stuff in. Basically, it's tantamount to rebuying your stuff again. It's quite unreasonable.
A queue of removal lorries at customs points prove others are living rough too. Their belongings are in these boxes. Everything from Christmas decorations to bicycles has been sitting here for over a month now, as the owners hope something will change.
Here at the customs depot, the shipments are building up fast. All of this is owned by just one person. It weighs 4,000 kilograms, but it's not going anywhere until over 15,000 euros is paid in cash.
From July the 1st, foreigners have been charged 4 euros per kilogram of luggage they bring over the first 50. Some objects are exempt, but heavy items like furniture and cars are taxed. No one was warned of the new law. It took officials at the customs depot 2 hours to study the rules before being interviewed so they'd know what to say. The changes were introduced the same day migration laws were relaxed, welcoming foreign professionals to Russia. How did this happen?
I'm absolutely convinced this is a misunderstanding, and we really hope it is. It can't be putting our country in a positive light. Obviously, we should do everything possible to make foreigners comfortable living here and sharing their technologies and intellect with us.
The Customs Service is coming round to this view. Primetime Russia's month-long investigation led them to admitting changes need to be made, but they're still coy on the specifics.
We'll review the laws to simplify the procedure. At the moment, we're working on an annex to the agreement to expand the list of items exempt from charges. I can't tell how long it will take because this issue is to be solved at the interstate level.
Belarus and Kazakhstan are the other countries in this customs union. They must all agree to scrap the charges before expats can collect their belongings for free. Ivor Bennett, Primetime Russia, RT.
And we're discussing this with Ivor right now at the moment. Ivor, the government's been talking for a long time already about how it wants to attract foreign investments, attract foreigners to come and live here. Surely these charges completely contradict that idea.
Well, exactly, as you've seen. Amir, who we interviewed there at the beginning of the report, he's had to pay 20,000 euros, and he said he would have definitely thought twice about coming here if he had known about the charges before he moved. And President Medvedev, in fact, announced this week that Russia's customs procedure was definitely scaring potential investors away and going against what the government wants to do to welcome investment here. And this was said at a meeting this week about the investment climate in Russia, where it was also revealed that Russia ranked 115th out of 155 countries globally in terms of the ease of its customs procedure. So a very, very poor ranking. And the reason for this is because it's very lengthy procedures, it's a lot of hassle, and as we've seen, very expensive now, in particular for foreigners. And also, in terms of paperwork, there's a lot more paperwork to do, both for import and export. In fact, double the amount of the average amount of paperwork for other countries in that survey. And it was announced at this meeting that that unnecessary paperwork actually added 5 days to the amount of time it takes to clear cargo in Russia. So it's a very lengthy and a lot of hassle for people coming in and going out of the country, in fact.
Okay, well, it's good to know that it's attracting attention on the highest levels as well, but are they intending to improve the situation in any way?
Well, they are indeed. As we've seen for this, for the import duties affecting foreigners, the Customs Union has admitted that changes need to be made. They haven't specified exactly what yet, typically, but they have said that it'll probably be some sort of expansion of the list of exempt items. At the moment, there's just 21 items exempt from these fees, which includes mainly just the light items like jewellery and also pets, for example, and sport equipment. But the heavy items like furniture, the things people really, really need, then those at the moment are on those charges, but hopefully they'll be moved to the exempt list. As for generally speaking, Russia's customs procedure in general, President Medvedev has said changes need to be made. All these unnecessary bits of paperwork need to be scrapped. Also, he's talked about introducing a green channel for the export of high-tech goods, because at the moment it's very difficult to export high-tech goods, and that's potentially putting investors off coming to Russia. And finally, he's ordered a full analysis, an in-depth analysis on how Russia's customs procedure is affecting trade and business activity here, and only then will they fully know how detrimental it has been.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That's our correspondent Ivor Bennett, and here on Primetime we are definitely going to keep a close eye on how the situation hopefully improves.